So it'd be helpful for me to know how many of you have been to one of our women's conferences before. Raise your hand. Okay, put them down. How many is this your first women's conference? All right, so we have a good mix. And of course, we know that welcome to all those who are watching remotely. We know this is just a fraction of those who are participating today, that remotely we have some other women, some other groups of women who are gathered together to participate today. So it's a joy to be here with you. Today we're going to build upon the theme of hope. And one of the most hopeful times that I experience is when a couple is on their wedding day. Those of you here who are married could look back on your own wedding day. Even in the midst of COVID and everything, I was privileged to be able to be at two weddings this summer. I presided at the wedding of my nephew, which was just a tremendous joy. Here's something that they did that maybe some of you have done, or certainly you may have seen. We have a beautiful statue of the Blessed Mother here, and sometimes couples will choose, as my nephew and his wife chose, to have a time in the wedding where they bring flowers to Mary. They bring flowers to Mary. Now, there are a lot of ways we could understand that. It's certainly an act of devotion and reverence, and it's a beautiful custom. One way to put that in context is to think about the gospel passage we have today, which teaches us that God provides. Jesus will see us through. That when we think we have nothing left, He'll come through for us. God provides. So this is the first of the public miracles that's accounted in the scriptures that we have. And so, what's the context? A wedding. And so when couples bring the flowers to Mary, we can reflect on how Jesus took care of the needs of this newly married couple. That in their very wedding celebration, reception, that Jesus met their needs. And the means through which those needs were met was the intercession of Mary. And so when a newly married couple starts out, really, in taking flowers to Mary, it should evoke that recollection of this first miracle of Jesus for who? A newly married couple. A newly married couple. And Jesus provides. Now, it's through this intercession of Mary and how we can incorporate that into our lives today that we'll spend a little bit of time. You know, there are, of course, a couple elements of this. One is the presentation of the need to Jesus. That Mary simply says, they have no. And at first it seems that Jesus is not going to respond to this presentation of the need, but of course He does. The other part, one of the things that's distinctive about this passage, there are different times that we see the Blessed Mother receiving, and certainly the heroism of her life, the challenges that she had, are quite apparent. This is one of the times that she gives a command. She says, "Do whatever He tells you." She's not just waiting for Jesus to act. She's telling the others, "Do whatever He tells you." Puts them into action. And of course, those words to us are the same. Do whatever He tells you. Do whatever Jesus tells you to do. And so Mary presents the need. She tells others to respond. But Jesus brings this great miracle. Sometimes we can feel like our wine, as it were, is running low, almost on empty. Got nothing left to give, feel like there's a scarcity of what we need, and we can come to that moment of feeling like there's not much left. There's not much left. We might be tempted to think that in the circumstances of today. I've given all that I have. I don't know how much more I have. I'm running low. Another passage in which we see this, we didn't hear this today, but is Elijah, who's on the run, and he encounters a mother and her son, and he says, can you bring me some bread? And she says, I don't have any bread. I've just got a little bit of flour and a little bit of oil, and I was just going to make it, and then my son and I were going to die. I mean, that was it. Had nothing, very, very little. And yet, of course, in response to the need presented to her holy prophet, indeed, she goes and makes that last bit of bread, and Elijah says, the flour and the oil will not run low. You'll be taken care of. And miraculously, that's what happens. She gives that last bit, and then we see that miracle unfold that she and her family are taken care of. So right now, we might find ourselves saying, look, I'm trying to coordinate education for my kids, and it might be on site, and it might be remote, and at the same time, I've got parents that I'm attending to, or I've got children and grandchildren that I'm concerned about. I'm not sure how we're going to be able to, kind of pay all the bills. Things seem pretty uncertain. I don't know when COVID is going to end. I feel like I'm being stretched between all the demands that I have. I'm trying to live a good, faithful Catholic Christian life, but I'm feeling like I've given it all. You know what? There are some times when we're at that point of thinking there's nothing left that we have, that God does extraordinary things. Part of it is sometimes we rely so much on our own strength. And we should be attentive and we should be diligent, and God wants us to be active. Mary was a woman of action. It's not all on us. And some run slow. That's the exact moment that we can see the power of God even more clearly. Because we say, I don't have much to give, but God does. And suddenly he provides. It might be helpful for you today, and periodically I'll do this, to look back on moments where you thought there was nothing left, and then suddenly there was a breakthrough. You had a prayer intention on your heart that you didn't know how it would be fulfilled, and lo and behold, it came through. You thought you were at a moment of despair and nothing left, and God moved. And God wants us to rely upon his providence. And sometimes he can stretch us to the end in doing so, but it's not the end. That whatever situation we're in right now, there's hope. There's hope. In the biggest of the big pictures, we know we're going to be okay. Why? Because Jesus on the cross has done all that's necessary for our eternal salvation, and our life is a response to that act of love. So we're going to be okay in the big picture. In the short term, we might have needs and situations that need to be addressed, but we know that God is there with us. And rather than just doing it all on our own, today is a day to remind ourselves of the hope that Jesus wants us to have, where we can trust him more fully, we can rely on his word more authentically, we can put into place all those things that he's calling us to do, and we can place all this in the hands of the Blessed Mother. That young couple would not have known, and I'm sure that the running low on wine was not the deepest of the challenges in their marriage as it unfolded. But the Lord met that need, and it's a sign of how he's going to meet our needs. My dear sisters, I'm so grateful that you're spending this day focusing on the hope that awaits us in Jesus. The flour will not be exhausted. The oil will not run low. The wine will not be emptied. Let's hope in Jesus, knowing that he will lead us. He's got us in the palm of his hands. And in him, we have our hope.